Hey guys, it's StingKnight. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys the 5 big mistakes most players make when they first start raiding in FF14. Let's jump right in. The first mistake is going to be about the user interface. If you head to the bottom right, click on System and head over to HUD Layouts. For the target bar, you can actually split it up into 3 separate parts. If we click on the target bar and then click on the UI element settings, and here click on Display Target Info Independently, and I highly recommend setting the progress bar to 200%, so then it will look something like this. Whenever the boss casts a certain mechanic, you can see this way easier. It's going to be twice as big, so it's going to be very hard to miss out. And then for the target info status, I would also turn up a little bit bigger, but not too big. I like to have it at 140%, so I know what sort of buffs or debuffs are on the boss. The most common type of HUD layout usually revolves around keeping everything at the bottom of the screen. And one good thing to know is that when you're dragging these boxes, if you hold shift, it will align with the boxes automatically, so you can stay aligned perfectly with all the other boxes that you're dragging around. Another thing that is important, especially if you're a tank, is to have the enemy list close to the middle so you can see what is happening, especially when there are multiple opponents up at once that you need to keep track of the aggro. For me personally, I like to have my target info up at the top still. The most annoying thing is that there will be a boss speech bubble whenever you're fighting a boss, which appears around where my mouse is hovering, so you will have to adjust around that when you are making changes to your HUD. If we head over to character configuration and the hotbar settings, right here where it says display recast times, by default it is the type 1 bottom left. It would look something like this. If you use any OGCD, the number will be at the bottom left of the screen. And if we change that to type 2, boom, the number becomes way bigger and it moves to the center instead. Besides, the OGCD is also going to help any of your buffs. So with this, it requires way less focus to figure out how long your cooldown is about to come back up and when you should be anticipating or preparing to use your rotation. The second big mistake a lot of players make is they learn the opener very well, but once they get into an actual boss fight, you realize that the boss lasts for way longer than a few minutes, meaning that you need to practice your odd minutes buff rotation and then also your even minutes buff rotation, which is what I call a reopener. Basically similar to your opener, except you're gonna have a lot more class resources, so that means there's gonna be way more buttons to press in general. So it is quite important to practice at a striking dummy beyond the opener, as a normal boss fight usually lasts up to 10 minutes long. My personal rule of thumb when learning a new class is to be able to hit a striking dummy for 10 minutes straight without making a single GCD or OGCD error. I'm gonna assume most players have ACT prepared, and basically when you are finished with the striking dummy, you could upload the log you just done. Once you have uploaded the FF logs, you can click on the striking dummy, whichever one that you have done or the one you want to check for any mistakes for, and you just click on it and then just copy the FF logs link. Head over to 14analysis.com and here you just post your log right here, and then you can just click on yourself. This is the dummy parts that I intentionally made a lot of mistakes in. For example, I did not have 100% uptime. I did not keep my buff uptime high enough, and I missed certain buff timing windows, as well as drifting my ability for a total of 5 seconds, which should never happen when you are parsing at a dummy. Using this analysis website, it will find out some very obvious mistakes that you're currently making, but some of the more complicated ones or ones that are hard to spot, I would recommend heading over to the Balance Discord server to ask for some tips and help. And you may be confused on where to find the rotations from. You can easily head over to the balanceff14.com website, either this or you can just join their Discord server. And for example, I want to learn the Paladin rotation. I can just click on Paladin and head over to the opener section, and there should be some nice infographics. The third big mistake a lot of players make is not using utility. The first one being mitigations. Each class category has their own mitigation, except for healer. Healers have their own specific type. For example, on melee classes, you all have feint, which primarily reduces the target's physical damage. On casters, you have Adol, which reduces a target's magical damage. Reprisal, which is for the tanks, reduces 10% damage dealt overall. Now these are important to use, especially when the boss casts certain mechanics, raid-wide AoEs. AoEs can do a lot of damage and can easily wipe out a whole party when players do not have the best gear, meaning their HP will be less, or when you're simply progging at the moment, and you can reduce the chances of anyone dying. Using these properly will relieve a ton of pressure off the healers in the group and allow them to save their resources on when it really matters. The next one I'm going to talk about is the anti-knockback, which for melee, tanks, and physical range, it is the arm's length. For casters or healers, it is the short cast. This is important to have in your hotbar to begin with, and make sure to put it in a key that you feel comfortable pressing, because there are a lot of mechanics in the game that require you to use anti-knockback, and if you miss it, you'll be sent flying away. Similar to anti-knockback, sprint is also important to have, as it will allow you to reposition after a mechanic or during a mechanic, which can happen quite often and will reduces any chances of error as you're able to get to the correct position a lot quicker. And then finally, some classes have a mobility that they can use. For example, on Dragoon, you have elusive jump, which allows you to dash back a pretty far distance, similar to sprint, allowing you to reposition immediately and be prepared for the next mechanic or escaping some sort of AoEs. So I hope these 5 tips was somewhat useful. If it did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more future FF14 content. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.